But, alright, I switched over, but I have a welcome screen on there somehow, so I don't know. There it goes. Alright, well, welcome. My light's not on. I'll figure that out in a minute. But welcome to those of you that are watching. Let's talk about the PowerShell Summit, and let's talk a little bit about the history of it before we talk about the 2023 show. I have a great guest here with me. We got Don over here on this side. That way. So Don, you started the summit, right? Awesome. And I don't know if I have. Can you all hear Don on the stream, or is it just me? No audio for Don. Awesome. All right, now we have audio for Don. So let's try that again. So Don, tell us tell us how the summit started.
Yeah, so there was an event way back. It was run by a company called NetPro, which was later absorbed by Quest Software, and they ran the Experts Conference. Originally, it was the Directory Experts Conference. They were a big Active Directory software vendor. When it became the Experts Conference, they kind of branched out, and they eventually added a track for PowerShell. And the thing that was happening at the time, so this would have been, I don't know, 09, 10, somewhere in there. If you were an entry-level person, if you were just learning about PowerShell, there's plenty of places to go. There's tons of training. There's lots of books. There was tech ed. This was before Ignite existed. But if you were kind of an expert, like if you'd been using it for a while and you were really pushing the envelope, there was really no place to go to learn more, to share. More importantly, there was no place for the team to go to hear from you, the expert user. When Quest Software bought NetPro, they discontinued the Experts Conference, and the team was a little worried. The PowerShell team was a little worried that they were going to lose touch with these more advanced users, and that all the feedback they were going to be hearing was from more beginners, which can create a lopsided product. So Kenneth Hansen and Aaron Chappell came to Jason Helmick and I. We were out at campus for something, and took us to lunch and sat us down and said, "We need you to run a conference. We need you to resurrect, the PowerShell Experts Conference." And we said, "Okay." We had just started PowerShell.org about 6 months prior, and we wanted a conference to be in our future. We just didn't know it was that close. So they offered to help. They kind of stipulated that they couldn't give us any money because they didn't want us to be dependent on Microsoft financially. They wanted this thing to be independent, which I agreed with. But what they could do is get us space. So they got us a couple of conference rooms, 2 buildings adjacent to one another on Microsoft's campus. I want to say it's like 41 and 43 or 42 or something like that, the low 40s. They had decent sized conference rooms right off the lobby, which means you didn't have to get everybody security badges and everything else. And they made Microsoft catering available. And so we ran I believe it was a 3-day event for about 90 people. And the content was really, really high end, like really, 401 level content. We had some really, really smart people from the community as well as on the team come in. We ran 2 sessions in parallel. So people were just like running across the courtyard between sessions. And it was a huge hit. Like we sold out in a week. So the next year we got space at Maidenbauer Center in downtown Bellevue. And we said we can do this a little bit bigger. We blew it out to about 200 folks and sold out in 3 weeks. So we kind of kept expanding it, but for a long time, we really kept the content very, very high end, very, very expert level. What started to happen though, and this is around the time you started getting involved with the organization, is tech ed went away. Now it was Ignite. There was a lot less content for PowerShell people. So if you were a beginner, there actually wasn't a place to go anymore. And so we started the OnRap track, which was a way for people to get into PowerShell kind of from scratch. We started having a little bit more intermediate content so that there would be a journey that people could take. But we still really focused on advanced. And I mean, I guess that's kind of what you guys are still doing, right?
Yeah, for the most part, we try to stick with that expert level, but we do also know that there is nothing in between that on ramp and that expert level. So we do try to sprinkle in some of those intermediate sessions. That's kind of what PowerShell Saturdays was supposed to help fill that gap, and that's something that we were doing really good. And then there's this evil C word that happened that kind of blew the whole world up for 2 years.
Yeah, the pandemic made it a little bit difficult for everybody.
Yeah, so that's kind of then OnRamp. This year, Jeff Hicks is leading that again. We were able to give out 6 scholarships this year.
Oh wow, that's awesome. So full
Yeah, so I
ride
mean,
free.
that's full ride. Plane tickets are up. The cost of food is up. So it's about $6,500 in value.
Wow,
That's really cool.
that's awesome. Now is your baby
And
going to be in OnRamp?
yes, yes. No, she's going to be in the OnRamp next year.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
hopefully
looking
she
forward to
doesn't
that.
cry too loud.
I'm actually doing a little bit with OnRap. Hicks reached out and asked me to do a section, so I'm going to do a section on interviewing and resumes. Um, a, a whole bunch of people are going to have copies of Shell of an Idea, so I'm going to hang out and autograph copies. And then, just in case anyone might care, I'm actually going to bring a bunch of copies of my fiction novels, so people can check
You
those
keep
out.
talking. I'm going to be right back.
Yeah. So James has about 11 children. I don't know which one this is that's crying. The office seems like an odd place to keep it.
Well, that's not true. I only have 2.
Don't you have like a 30-bedroom house or something like that, though?
Yes, but we are in between feeds and someone is eating and not wanting to nap.
A little cranky. Yeah, so I'm gonna bring some of my fiction books.
So she's starting OnRap next year.
Okay, well that's perfect. She's about the right age. But yeah, it's gonna be nice. I missed in 2019, I think it was. I had kind of stepped back, and the plan was to stay stepped back. And then 2020 occurred, which I felt terrible about. Bye, COVID. Hi. So I've kind of missed, the past few years, I've missed seeing everybody. I met a lot of friends at Summit. So I'm really looking forward to kind of, reconnect and get to see folks and chat and talk about everything. So I'll be there Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We're going to drive out Wednesday, bringing my dog.
So yeah, I know we've done. Yeah, we did Summit virtually twice, 2020 and 2021. And we still had the same level of content, the same number of attendees. But yeah, like you said, we definitely missed that personable aspect that Summit has.
Yeah, I think until you've been and you've really kind of experienced how not like a typical tech conference it is, like just how friendly everybody is, how easy it is to strike up a conversation, how easy it is just to hang out and talk about, the things you care about, PowerShell automation, network management, systems administration. Until you've done that, you've really experienced it. It's hard to believe, but once you've done it, you're like, holy wow, that's really impactful. Like that meant a lot. And then you want to go back because it's like your place and your people.
Right. We were worried about that last year, the first in-person tech conference kind of brought behind AWS really. And we were kind of worried that I think it's like 60 or 70% of the attendees were first-time Summit attendees. So we're like, wow. Uh-oh. Yeah, we're going to have to train everybody all over again. And it was great. It just naturally happened. We didn't have to do anything. That's awesome. The groups formed. I forgot who's coined the term. Someone in Discord will probably correct me, but there's the term about the Pac-Man. Like you don't make a circle. Everyone makes a Pac-Man. It's a circle. There's always a piece of the pie missing. So anytime someone steps in, the circle just gets bigger. That way the circle is never completely closed off and you're always welcoming the new person.
Oh, that's clever.
And that was just naturally happening. It was fantastic to see after a 3-year hiatus.
Yeah, and speaking of the content, I think what's gotten interesting is that for a lot of PowerShell's life and for a lot of Summit's early history, so I mean, Summit probably happened when PowerShell 3 was the big version. And obviously PowerShell 1 was a big thing, a big deal. PowerShell 2 was a big deal. Added remoting as one of its key features. 3 was a big deal, added a lot of language features, added workflow and everything else. And I mean, for a long time, that's what really kept Summit kind of going from a content perspective is there's this massive new version of PowerShell, 4 introduced DSC. That was an enormous, huge deal. And then now it's kind of tapered. And I actually regard that as a good thing. Because I think now you're getting a more constant flow of important but less earth-shattering things, and it gives people more of a time to engage and experiment and figure it out, craft a session. I think people are digging into the corners a lot more, and I think now looking at the lineup of what is coming up next month, I'm seeing a lot less sessions on just PowerShell and a lot more sessions on doing something useful with PowerShell. And that's what it's all about. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is this is a tool to get stuff done. And so it's really nice to see PowerShell itself kind of be a mature product that continues to evolve, but it's not a revolution every time. And it's nice that people are now having the time to create this content for the event that focuses on real legit like stuff people care about, getting stuff done in production.
Yeah, that's always one of the things we've put about in our CFP. We always say, tell us the story that you want. Like, we don't, yes, get up there, show us this fancy thing that you did, but tell us why it was important. How did you come up with this? Because everyone develops something for a reason because they need it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much the technique could be adopted by other folks. I mean, and that's really the thing too, is when you go to summits, you guys have got what, 3 simultaneous tracks plus OnRap?
We have 4 this year.
4 tracks
Yeah,
plus OnRap. Jeez.
yeah, we're back up to 4.
So advanced planning is even more important. Like, you're gonna have to pick your battles. You are not going to be able to see it all. Um, and, yeah, I mean, have a backup plan too. Like, I know rooms used to get full. I don't know if you're going to run into that this time or not, but sometimes everybody just hoards in on one room. So have a backup plan. And if you're going with a colleague, or you've got a colleague who maybe doesn't work for the same company, but someone that you're connected to through the community, divide and conquer, right? Like, go in, take notes, come back afterwards, sit down at lunch, compare notes, trade information. And yeah, it's a big event. It's a really dense amount of information. It's not like, I think the last Ignite I went to, and I don't know if well, obviously they're not doing them live right now, but it was like you went to a 60, 75-minute session, and then there was half an hour or more, because it takes you that long to traverse these giant mile-long convention centers, and there's 18 things happening simultaneously, but only one of them is going to matter to you. The rest of it's all software developers and SQL people and everything else. And a lot of it's very fluffy, very high level, very, very entry, very overviewy. And if you're used to that type of conference, then Summit can be a little like, oh my God, it'll put you on your back foot, because it's dense. There's not a half-hour break between every single session. And it's like real legit chewy stuff that's done by other people who are just working with the product.
Yeah, I know my brain is typically like hurting just from the amount of content
By Wednesday afternoon.
by Wednesday. Yeah, by Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, it's like I am done, and there's a whole nother day of content left.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to drive out Wednesday morning.
Right, but speaking of dividing and conquering, you don't have to get FOMO, because everything's recorded, and it's going to be posted up for free on our YouTube site. So that's one of the great things we do at Summit. We have great partners over at Confreaks. They do a fantastic job with the video editing and production. But there's a funny story about video editing, or about the video production in there. Something about a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah. So I think it says a lot about the in-person experience at Summit that you can give the content away for free to benefit the community, and people still need and want to go to the event. And I think that's an important thing to recognize, because the content itself is just a piece of it. But yeah, so I think it was the first year we were at Maidenbower, and some folks brought up hey, we really wish you would record sessions. And I said, look, I don't have a problem doing recordings. I don't have a problem giving them away for free, because I don't have the time or effort to set up a store to give it away or to sell it. But like I said, guys, it's not cheap. Like, the equipment, the microphones, the additional people got to run around to make sure all the buttons get pushed and the lights go off and everything else. And they said, well, how much? And I said, honestly, just to do the 3 rooms we're doing, it's probably going to be 15 grand or something like that. You should do a Kickstarter. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'm going to call your bluff. And I did. I put it up. I think it was on Indiegogo, actually. So this was Tuesday of the summit. I put it up. By Friday, we were funded. We legit had people giving $1,000 more in a couple of cases to make it happen. I'm like, well, okay, I thought I was the one calling bluffs, but apparently not. And so we went and bought the equipment, and the next year we deployed it, and we trained everybody push the button to start the recording, push the button to stop the recording. Like everyone was trained to shout that out. That did us really well for several years, honestly. We got screen caps. We didn't have cameras back then, so you were picking up voiceover slides and demo, but that was the important part. And then that equipment kind of started to fail, like because we also flew it back and forth to the two PowerShell Europes, right? Like it had a life.
Had a bunch of
Um,
miles.
it did. And so the equipment started to fail on us and we missed a couple of sessions. And so we said, we need to do something else. And I think that's when we reached out to Confreaks. I know for a while there was a partnership with Pluralsight, and they came in and took care of filming, and then we got video and everything else. But I agree, the Confreaks folks just do a flipping fantastic job.
Yeah, I know. And everyone's all, the biggest question is, how much does it cost? Like, I'll tell you, I'm the one that pays the bill. It's $32,000
Yeah,
to
that's a lot of
record
money.
4 days of content.
Yeah. And Confreaks, even that's a really discounted price because we give the content away because we're not selling it. Like
Yes.
that's essentially their cost to
Uh-huh.
fly in the equipment, fly in the people, put the people in hotel rooms, feed the people food, and then go home and cut all the bits together and everything else. It's expensive. But it's
Right.
worth it. I mean, I'm really like, and know that by going to Summit Live, you're paying for that. Like that's built into the ticket price because there's no other source of income really. There are some sponsorships that happen now and again, which certainly help offset the costs. But the people who attend Summit are the ones who fund Summit, keep it going.
Yeah, Summit it does run as a break even event, so that's always a
Yeah,
good thing.
yeah. No one's getting rich off Summit.
No.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
been an
we have
interesting
a new
history.
thing.
And
Oh yeah.
go ahead, go ahead. I want to hear
Oh, I was
the
gonna
new
say we
thing.
have we have a new thing going on this year. So Iron Scripter has been kind of a him and a hot thing. Some people love it, some people hate it. Hicks has also decided he doesn't want to be the chairman of the Iron Scripter board anymore. Um, so I think we're gonna take a break from Iron Scripter this year, but instead we're replacing it with a Docathon in conjunction with the Docs team and the PowerShell team.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a couple of the PowerShell engineers kind of walking around. Sean is going to be he's gonna be there. I don't remember. I think Sean's the only one that's gonna be there. But he's gonna be walking around helping people, making sure that the content is kind of up to snuff. And I believe they're even gonna be possibly even like approving PRs like right there on site as the
Wow,
as the help box come in. Obviously, as long as they're
they're good. Yeah, I
yeah,
think that's a
obviously, yeah,
thing
as long
too.
as they're
Is
good. But
you gotta for people who think of Summit as a conference, you have to not think of it as a conference. It's a community gathering, and I don't care who you are in the PowerShell universe. You have benefited tremendously from the volunteer effort of a lot of people. There's a PowerShell gallery full of free modules that people have written. There are tons of improvements in the PowerShell product and its documentation that have come from the community, from people who have volunteered their time. And I know most people are willing to try and give back. They just don't know how. And something like a Docathon is a great way to do it. Like you're already going to be there. You're going to be surrounded by a bunch of people who can point you in the right direction and get you started and give you something to work on and show you how to do it. And those are meaningful contributions. Those are things that the next generation of people coming in are going to benefit tremendously from, just like you benefited from all the people who did it before you. So those are great things to get involved with at an event like that. That's a really awesome thing. I hope everybody participates a lot, like really hard participates.
me too. And I'm sure Sean. I don't know if Sean's watching, but I'm awesome. He's I know he has his fingers crossed.
Good, good. Yeah, that's a fantastic thing. Yeah, there's so much interesting stuff that we've tried over the years. Iron Scripter. Are you still doing the lightning sessions? Those came from a really weird place.
Oh yes, community lightning demos. Those are Tuesday afternoon, if I remember correctly. Those are always a lot of
Those
fun.
those started. So I want you to picture. I mean, the conference ballrooms, right? So I want everybody to picture a conference ballroom, two of them right next to each other, because that's what we had at Maidenbower. Our three main rooms were these kind of long rooms that sat right next to each other. and they've got air walls, and that's how you get 3 rooms, because otherwise it's just one giant room. So what we did is when we set up the rooms in room 1, we put the stage all the way against the right hand side, house right, and then in room 2 we put the stage all the way against the left. So when it came time for lightning rounds, and these that time were being done by team members. So we wanted a way for PowerShell team members to come up and quickly demo something that they had been working on without having to make a slide deck and worry about a presentation, because these aren't professional presenters, right? Like for them to get ready for a full hour session is a huge commit. Just something quick, 10 minutes. So we sent everybody out to go get snacks. We broke down the air wall. So now these 2 stages are almost right next to each other, but there's like a 1-foot gap in between them. And we set up a podium on each one because we wanted to keep this going quick like a bunny. So we had a person talking on this one while a person was setting up on this one. And then we would push a button on the video switcher. This person would break down, someone would come set up while this person was talking. Well, of course, everybody shows up with 83 different types of video connector on their laptops. And so we've got adapters and cables flying around. And I'm hopping back and forth over this 1-foot gap. And I'm positive that I'm going to catch my foot and die at some point. So we can help this person get set up and okay, you're going up, jump. Okay, help break you down, get the next person. It was really, really interesting. I love that it turned into a community thing, because again, if you're nervous about speaking, then getting up and demoing something for 10 minutes is way less terrifying than getting up by yourself, especially because I don't know, kind of the vibe of lightning sessions is it's okay if like stuff breaks. Like everything is just happening so fast and hard that if something breaks, you kind of, oh, well, it broke. So it's like a really low pressure way of getting up and giving back a little bit, speaking, kind of getting that under your belt. And maybe in a future year, that'll give you the confidence to do a full session, which is always great.
Yeah, I know a lot of our speakers come from lightning demos.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an awesome thing. And you can prep. You can do it during lunchtime with 2 or 3 of your colleagues before you leave the office, right? So it's really easy to just kind of put something cool together, and it doesn't have to be earth-shattering. Remember, you're not trying to impress like Jeffrey Snover, although he would be impressed. You're not trying to impress the people who impress you. You're just trying to give something to a bunch of people who will genuinely be impressed by it. Trust me. Everyone thinks, oh, no one will care about this. And it turns out everyone does care.
And we had so many people wanting to do lightning demos last year that we had to turn some away. Like we couldn't get to them all.
Wow. That's awesome.
So that was impressive. I remember my first summit as an attendee. I think lightning demos might have been the new that year, but the format document in VS Code was like in the alpha, was an alpha, and the guy who's, I think it was David Wilson, maybe. He's like, dude, like he showed that everyone went, oh, like I still remember that. That was 2016, I think, 2017, maybe.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Is Snover going to make it this year for the 10th anniversary?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Something about getting a new job, moving back to Boston.
Moving on the other side of the country. I knew it was a long shot.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, we tried. He said maybe next year.
I'm glad I'm going to be able to get back for the anniversary too. I'm really looking forward to getting to see people. Showing my dog around.
All right, I'm trying to think. We went over OnRap. Went over the new
I don't know.
stuff.
We didn't really talk about what OnRap is. I mean, I realize it's probably filled up, but like if you're looking at a future year, OnRap is.
But there's still spots available.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. So OnRamp is basically a live delivery of Learn PowerShell in a month of lunches. It deviates a little. There's some more in there than the book covers. Like I'm going to do a thing about interviews and job preparedness. But it like the theme of it, the core structure is really the book. So Jeff and I started that. And if you are just learning PowerShell, even if you've kind of been using it for a little while and you really want to get in, it is such an ideal way to learn the things that you can't learn on your own, or that you're likely to learn wrong on your own, right? Like people jump into PowerShell, they start using it, and they kind of build a mental model of what's going on. And a lot of times it's wrong. And that means you get to a certain point, you're like, wait a minute, why doesn't this work? Well, because you really misunderstood these fundamentals because they're hard. Well, they're not hard, but they're hidden, they're opaque. So it kind of reveals all that. And you get hands-on exercises that you can do right when there's an instructor there. There's several people who are involved in teaching, so you get to hear several different people talk. It doesn't get boring. It's just a really, really great experience in a way that you could not get in a traditional instructor-led class. Plus, you get to hang out with all the rest of Summit at lunchtime and on breaks and in the evening events. And so you start to build those connections to that community. And trust me, like the first scholarship winner we ever had, because we only had enough money for like one or two back in the day. Andrew Plaw came in, and
he's here. He's listening.
Is he? Like that's exactly what Summit is for. Like Andrew now co-hosts a PowerShell podcast. You know, he's contributed a bunch, and just by going to Summit and meeting people and getting really fired up and realizing that, you know, the people you may admire, the people you may have learned from are right down in there with it. Like they're there with you, and they're not up on a pedestal, and they're not sneaking off to a secret speaker room when they're done talking. It's everybody is there, and it's just a bunch of give and take. And I think it really does inspire people to, you know, I see a bunch of people who've come through OnRamp and who've been through Summit who are now creating content in the community. They're helping people solve problems. They're answering questions in forums. And that connection, those relationships that you make are tremendous.
Yeah, there's someone that I want you to meet while you're there. Vanda. I don't remember Vanda's last name, but she came in the on-ramp program last year, and she started out. She was this very shy, kind of very timid person, and then by the time Wednesday came around, she was hosting a D&D night
Nice.
at our offsite, and she's coming back this year to be in the main track.
Nice. Yeah,
So
you know what's funny is a lot of people will go to this
she's
event.
awesome.
A lot of people will go to this event. We had one fella, it must have been in 19, who real shy, introverted. And here's a little secret. We all are, all of us. I don't get up on a stage and talk because I love it. It's a massive expenditure of energy. And at the end of the day, I just want to go sit in a small, quiet place with a whiskey. Like I am very much an introvert. And this fella, he's, you know, my company sent me here, and one of my coworkers used to be here. And I had to promise that I would go up to people and introduce myself and shake their hand. And so he was forcing himself to do that and getting into such great conversations with people too. They're like, oh, great. You know, I'm so-and-so, I'm from here. And what do you do? And it turns into a conversation really easily. And yeah, at the end of the night, you might feel exhausted and drained and just want to fall into bed and put the pillow over your head and be quiet. That's okay. Like that's how everybody feels. You're not unusual. You're not abnormal. That is a completely normal response to an event like that, but it's worth the energy. Well, you muted yourself. Now you have to say something.
Well, she was starting to cry. I didn't want it to pick up and interrupt you. And also, Joe, I see your chat over in Twitch. Send me a message and we can talk about OnRamp sponsorship.
Oh yeah, great. Right,
well, one last thing, because obviously I'm being summoned for lunchtime. So Snover has always been our keynote speaker. And obviously, he's not going to be there. So it took a little bit of doing, but we were able to get Brendan Burns to be our keynote. So nice. what do you think? What do you think about that as a Snover alternative?
I mean, it's good to see Summit doing something different, right? Like we had, you know, Snover did keynotes for going on 9 years, and so did I. And it's good to see that stretching out a little bit. I think that's going to be a fascinating talk. That's the one I'm going to sit and absolutely listen to. Yeah, it is really great. So I've always felt that it's great to build something. Like it felt great to build PowerShell.org with everyone else who did that with us. It felt great to build Summit along with, you know, Jeff and Richard and Jason and yourself and everybody else who's come in, and, you know, Missy and Warren and John, all the other folks who've come in to help out. What's really great is to build something that you can step away from, and it not only keeps going, it gets better. because your vision as the person who built it 9 years ago might not be up to date. Like the world might need a different thing now. And so having new people come in, so yeah, having new keynoters come in, especially, someone like that, having 4 tracks, all the things that change, the fact that this is still going. I love to see the change. I love to see it evolving. I love to see it adapting. I love to see the new perspective everyone who helps run it brings to it. It's awesome to see a new lineup of names.
Yeah, yeah. So Warren left. He kind of left us to move on to more of the security role. So we brought Kevin in, and Kevin has just brought in a fantastic new. Because
Yeah,
Kevin, I think, has been to every summit to begin with.
yeah,
Just like this new fresh perspective, and then Missy's always does a great job of pairing. Going through sessions and pairing kind of what's relevant in today's world.
yeah. I'm excited. It's a fantastic content lineup. For those folks who are not going to be able to make it live, I feel sorry for you. You are missing something truly special. To the point where there's a lot of people who do not have their companies pay for it. Like they cover their own travel, they save up. Summit is an important enough part of their career that they invest in themselves. And I think the fact that so many people do that year after year shows they're getting a return on that investment. It is creating positive outcome for them. And it is great to see the new names. So if you're not going to be there in person, I feel bad for you. Try and fix that next year. But at the very least, really, really give a hard look at the sessions that are coming up, so that you can kind of prioritize your watching the recordings afterwards.
Yeah, and of course, we still have tickets available for this year. So you go to
Oh, it's awesome.
PowerShell.org and grab. We are on track to sell out and to sell out quickly. So don't wait. Go
Yeah.
ahead and grab your ticket sooner rather than later.
And you are arranging a gift for your alumni, right? For people who've
Yes,
been there before.
yeah. So if you've been there before and you registered with the alumni discount code that you were sent, I think we have a copy of the Shell of an Idea that we're going to be handing out. And I think Don said he'll sign them for you.
I will, and I'm actually going to bring some extras for. I think I have like 20 on hand, so I'm going to bring those with me. So first person to get to me can pick those up.
Yeah, and I'm also going to bring some printed copy of the new PowerShell Modern Technology textbook that we just released. So that's the 4th iteration of the PowerShell conference book.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'll have some printed copies of versions 2, 3, and 4. So my wife can get them out of the garage.
James, it was lovely talking to you.